Hello, reality sandwich community. Kyle, one of your favorite conscious agents, back with another insightful share your experience. I'm joined today by a really special guest. She just opened up one of Denver's first licensed facilitator cafes. I'm joined by the wonderful. Would you like to introduce yourself, please, to our
Yeah.
reality sandwich audience?
Hi, everyone. My name is Manon Maneuver, and I am the co owner of Vivid Minds Cafe and Wellness Center in Denver, Colorado. We are Denver's third licensed psychedelic healing center and Denver's first product manufacturing company.
Super exciting. Congrats on that. We're all excited to see how Denver rolls out with its legalized platform here. So first off, I'd like to jump right in. You just opened up. What were some of the challenges, the struggles? How did you get to this point in opening up a licensed place where people can take medicine?
We experienced a lot of different hurdles, some more difficult to overcome than others. But it was interesting because when you're first in line for such a brand new venture and a brand new world, you're there with the government and the departments as they're modifying the rules, modifying the laws. And we dealt with everything firsthand, and it was really interesting because the government was so helpful. There were no long delays in responses, no hidden fees. Everything was really upfront, and just the application was a bit tedious at filling out because the rules kept changing. So we had to modify our application every time that they would decide on a new rule or law. So that was very interesting. And so, yeah, we are currently open. We're located on South Broadway in Denver, Colorado. And right now, we are just looking for clinical facilitators to come and join our team to help facilitate journeys, macro or micro. But for the time being, we're just doing non-psilocybin events a lot right now, yoga, breath work, meditation, art therapy. And we hope to expand that once we find our clinical facilitator to join our team.
Super rad. Congrats again. Now, do you have a background in plant medicine or your parents like involved in the space? I'd love to hear kind of how you got on this entrepreneurial journey and wanting to work with plant medicines in this capacity.
Well, my dad spent his teenage years chasing with the Deadheads, the Grateful Dead in New York. So that is his extent on plant medicine. But we vote, and my mom loves doing yoga and meditation and breath work. But mushrooms really, well, medicine really came into our lives about 4 years ago when I met my partner, Jeff, who is a High Times trophy winner for Best Edible, Best in Show, and Best Booth. And we just decided that after doing the research to help some of our friends and family who were dealing with anxiety and depression, that we should lean into the mushrooms because cannabis just wasn't cutting it anymore. For certain people, no matter how high or how much rosin or how many dabs, they just had this constant feeling of worry and anxiety. And so we did the research, and Jeff really just poured his heart and soul into understanding the medicine, understanding how it can help people, which doses work best, and also just what makes us different from a lot of other companies is we use functional mushrooms to help the psilocybin work easier and better within your natural organic system. So we include lion's mane, chaga, reishi, cordyceps, which is a super powerful mushroom blend, and it just really helps create. Um, it just it kind of just facilitates the psilocybin working within your system, so you don't get too high of a dose, but you're also feeling the benefits of it along with the lion's mane and other mushrooms.
What kind of personal experience did you have to go through to become, kind of open up this business? I'd love to hear more about your personal journey with psilocybin and mushrooms. When did you first try them? And yeah,
So
what was your
my
experience?
So my personal experience with mushrooms was in Palm Springs, on a floating device in a pool at a party, and I ate probably about half a gram, and I was just chilling in the sun for about 4 to 5 hours, and I was laughing and crying, and after that, I just felt a huge sense of relief and realized that the medicine works. I went through a lot of personal trauma growing up, even wrote a book about it just because it was, I was sent to a lockdown school. I was taken away from my parents, kicked out of a lot of school districts. And so I was just very troubled growing up. And when I became an adult, I really tried to better myself and be better towards my parents, my friends, my family, not be such a brat. And I was having a lot of trouble understanding who I was deep down inside and who I wanted to be. I didn't want to be the problem child anymore. I wanted to be inspirational. I wanted to be motivational. My cousin had a daughter who looked up to me, and I just really wanted to be a powerful, positive influence on her. And I just realized that the mushrooms helped me with developing that side of myself, like understanding who I truly was. And it turns out that in our family, we come from a long line of just emotional healers. Not licensed or anything, just we've always practiced yoga, we've always practiced meditation. And my mom said it's in my genes to want to help heal, and because that's who she was, that's who my grandmother was. And so we developed the Vivid Minds company in the goal to better everyone and kind of help everyone figure out who they want to be in the long run, of this crazy thing called life. And I just found that psilocybin works better than any other drug or prescription medication that you could be prescribed or offered. There's no hangover, there is no dependence. You just really feel the medicine working. And my claim to fame is I used to be such a crybaby because of all the internalized trauma and rage that I had inside of me. And after my first massive journey, that lasted about 8 hours, uh,
Wow.
I didn't cry for like 6 months. Whereas like nothing used to make me cry. And for 6 months, I was just like, I feel great. Everything's good. And then my grandfather passed away. So I cried. But I was able to process the emotions of grief much better. I didn't resort to heavy drinking like I would have in my past. I just sat with the medicine and cried and did some art because he was an artist. And just, it's making me tear up right now, actually. But yeah, it's just the medicine is powerful, and I wanted to kind of find a way to harness it and bring it into people's lives and make it more accessible for people of all communities, of all walks of life, because the demand is there. So, with our journey of Vivid Minds, it seemed natural when Denver opened up the licensing process for us to jump on it, because we had been exhibiting our products at psychedelic conventions. So PsyCon in Portland, Oregon invited us. Then we went to Las Vegas for the psychedelic convention. And when we came to Denver, we actually met with members of Dora, who advised us that they were going to be opening up licensing and applications, and that you had to be a year-long resident at least of Denver, that you had to find certain spaces, etc. And we just jumped the gun and, well, no, we bit the bullet. Sorry. Sometimes I mix up my American sayings. But we bit the bullet. We packed up our apartment in Los Angeles, our two dogs, our two cars, and we drove in October of 2023. We drove out here and we found an apartment and we just settled in and started the application process from start to finish. It took about 6 to 8 months, and we were the first in-person appointment at the Colorado department to turn in our application. We didn't want to do it online. We wanted to meet the people in person. And then we got licensed about 2 months ago,
Mhm.
fully licensed for our healing center. I signed up for facilitator school. So I'll be graduating. I've graduated, but I still have to do my practicum. And there was no, one of the biggest hurdles that we encountered with the whole licensing process was that when I was in school for become a facilitator, there were no licensed cultivators or testing facilities. And so when we were ready to graduate and finish by doing our practicum, which is a week long experience with the school where I will be the guide, then I will do the journey, then I will just sit and hold space. So it's a whole, it's a week long process where we have to take the medicine to understand what's going to happen to our patients during their journeys. And there was no medicine. There was no licensed medicine or licensed testing facilities. So what we ended up doing was pushing. The school pushed it back to October. So in October we should be fully licensed as a facilitator, which will be super exciting because, like I said, all I want to do is offer help and guidance.
Walk me through the process of becoming a licensed facilitator. What made you personally want to work with people and use the medicine, and then what made you choose these specific program? There are a lot of people out there trying to sell their courses to become facilitators or become a practitioner. You really have
Of
to do some
course, yeah.
vetting to find out who's legit.
So I actually went off the government website. They had several schools that were listed, and one of them was heavily religiously affiliated, and I have never been a one to go to church, so I didn't feel connected to that one. The second one was an all women led school, and I was super interested in that one, but of course it was sold out. And then the third one was the Center for Medicinal Mindfulness in Boulder, and I decided to sign up with them because when I met the orientation leader. He was so enthusiastic about the classes and the teachers and the curriculum. And it was for a 6 month curriculum. So it just made sense to kind of go with the one that the government would. Obviously, there are so many schools, and I could have gone to Oregon and I could have gone to like there were just different schools all around, but we really chose to go with the one that was listed on the government website because I figured that would be the best option.
What were some things that surprised you going through facilitator training that you didn't realize, whether when you were taking medicine or working with practitioners in the past?
Uh, I think the real thing that seemed a bit shocking was just how many rules had to be implemented, like how many documents, how many forms I have to have the patient fill out, and then also, the consent policies of touch. It's head, shoulder, foot, nothing else. You can't offer a hug. You can't help them to the bathroom. It's a lot of rules, and for a medicine that is very rule breaking or rule bending, let's say, because you bend your senses, you bend your reality. It was very interesting that the government really wanted it to be like point A to point B to point B point two. Like it was very specific, and so we worked. we have a lot of documents that we have to have patients sign for each journey, micro or macro. And I found it very interesting to be just that we have to do it. You know, we have to get the intake session, and then the Zoom, and then after your journey, you do the post integration where you follow up with your patient and make sure that everyone's okay, not heavy depleted serotonin, just so many steps to follow and to make sure that everyone has an agreeable and enjoyable journey, because you know you want people to feel safe, and I think the government really did their best to almost make it too safe, in a way, because it's so many rules. There's no real space for the medicine to be free. I don't know if that's the right word, but to be it's not it's not like a free for all experience. You can't just walk into a journey. You really have to. It's kind of like doing ayahuasca, where you have to prepare with veganism and no alcohol and everything. Like,
Mhm.
to have a good journey, there's so much preparation and so many steps. And I thought that was very interesting, because I've always just been given mushrooms or mushroom chocolates and told, have fun. So I think this side makes it more therapeutic and more clinical.
Talk to me about the design philosophy that went into the space you're curating, and why you went with, the kind of the way you have it set up there. Tell me about what people can experience, coming to the cafe.
So we decided to go with a more calming and peaceful environment, as opposed to a psychedelic experience. We do not have crazy graphics on the walls. We didn't choose spiral artwork. We really just wanted to make it a clean space where you would feel comfortable bringing your grandma or your mom, which actually I had a friend bring in her super conservative mom from Georgia, and she loved it. She said the space was beautiful and super peaceful. So that was a great compliment. But we just decided to go with a calming environment so that people would feel safe. But yeah, so what we're hoping to develop with Vivid Minds Cafe and Wellness Center is we want to do more of microdosing, so art therapy, music therapy, and breath work, sound baths, and yoga. And we just want to do everything more on a microdose aspect, because we're just finding that macro dosing is so expensive, and also the government is just making the medicine so expensive. It's about to be $30 a gram.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we've met with a cultivator out here named Skylar, and we are working with him to get a better pricing on our medicine, because that's part of why the macro journeys are so expensive. Not only are you paying for the facilitator's time, obviously, and the space, obviously, and the intake and the integration, fine, but it's really the medicine that is costing so much money. And so we are working on more of a microdose formula to kind of make it more accessible, more attainable, and not make it a luxury to be able to heal. We want it to be accessible for all. And with the microdosing, you can come in 3 or 4 times a month, depending on your income, and come and do a microdose yoga session, come and do a microdose breath work. And it will just help recalibrate. It will help integrate. It will help the same way a journey will. Obviously, if you do an 8-hour journey, you're going to have a different outcome than if you just do like a 1 gram 2-hour session. But what we're hoping to achieve is just make the medicine more attainable and more accessible for everyone. That's what Vivid Minds wants, is we want it to be accessible for everyone.
Now, coming from the legacy side of things, what influenced you to have your own product line, and what is the process that's going on in Denver around, people being able to produce psilocybin infused products for facilities like yourself?
So we are Denver's first product manufacturing license company with Mothership Manufacturing, and we wanted to create our own line of products because, like I said earlier, Jeff is a vivid minds, a High Times Award winner for best edible, and so he's really just been good. He developed our whole CBD line as well. He's a recipe creator. That is what he is good at. He knows how to make each product homogenized to the point where when we took our batch of gummies to be tested by Triptonics, everything was identical. Each gummy had the exact same amount of psilocin and psilocybin in it. And it just made sense. Like, why would we trust someone else's products when we know that Jeff is really good at doing it? And so we applied for the product manufacturing license, and we are going to be offering gummies and chocolates within our center once once we're ready for the journey, and once we get the legal licensed medicine and fruit from Skylar, and it goes to a licensed testing facility.
After your first macro dose, was that a medicinal, like, organized journey for you? Were you in, like, with a facilitator, shaman, and what was your post integration period like after that mega dose you took? How did you integrate what you downloaded after?
So with me and my first macrodose, it was just during a weekend with my partner, and we were experimenting with his new batch of fruit that he had grown, and so it was all very potent and very strong. I just had the experience of a macro journey, and it was long and it was tedious and it was painful, but it also was so cathartic. I even, I spoke with my parents the next day, and we talked about forgiveness and acceptance, and that was kind of like my post integration, was just talking to my mom and having her say that she accepted me for who I was and what I was doing. And I said the same back to her. And we had a little cry on the phone, but our bond has been so much stronger since that experience. And I understand a lot of people use macro journeys for deeper introspection of self and trying to cure the demons and all of that. And it is useful for that. But I did it just to kind of forgive myself for all the stuff I had done as a kid to my parents, and to be able to call them and say, I'm so sorry I was a piece of shit all those years, and that I caused you so much stress. And I think that that was the best outcome I could have asked for, because, like I said, our relationship has been so much stronger since we've incorporated mushrooms into our life.
Beautifully put. Have you ever given your parents mushrooms or sat with them and meditated?
Yes, I have. So my dad actually used the medicine about, how old am I now? I'm 36. So about 23 years ago. Wow, that aged me. But my dad had a severe problem with alcoholism. He wasn't an aggressive drunk. He was a sleepy drunk, and he would drink a bottle of Jack Daniels and a 6-pack of Guinness, and then whatever wine was being served at the lunch table during work. He would also drink that. And so he was severely depressed and overweight, and one day we just had a heart to heart, and I told him, I'm very nervous. I feel like you're an alcoholic. I go to school in America. He lives in France. And I was just like, I go to school in America, and, we do these like health classes, and they kind of describe to us what alcoholism looks like. And you're hitting all the boxes, Dad. And he was like, oh, grumpy. But then I went back home after that winter break, and I didn't see my dad for a year. no one was telling me what was happening because I was so young. I was 13, and so it was, they just assumed I wouldn't understand. But it turns out my dad was meeting with a very old friend of his who's a shaman, Alejandro Jodorowsky, and he helped my dad with the medicine, and just they did probably like 3 4 journeys together over the course of a year, and my dad has not touched a drop of alcohol in 23 years. So now he smokes pot and he eats mushroom gummies from time to time. But otherwise, like he told me, like he's not tempted, even when things get really tough. He's just not, it's not part of his system anymore. Part of his organism, which I found super interesting because when I was microdosing for like 6 months, I found that also the need for alcohol just wasn't there. And I think that's something that I would definitely want more research on, is like, what does the medicine do that it makes you not crave alcohol anymore, not crave sugar? So it's a really interesting, it recalibrates your brain. It repairs your syntaxes, your cerebral. Totally understand, but I would just like to know, like, how, what did it fix in my dad that now he hasn't touched a glass of alcohol, in so long, after being so addicted to that stuff for so long. So that was just a really, that also was an inspiring experience for me when I, started in the mushroom industry. It was just really, I knew it worked because I had seen it with my dad. So I was just really excited to get into the pool, as they say, and just be a part of the movement because it helps people, and so we can really make a difference. And I want our products to help everyone.
How do you see, gatherings evolve? Because there is a movement moving away from alcohol, but people still want to catch a vibe at a place or party. So, how is psilocybin playing that role? And what do you notice differently about the culture in Denver around psychedelics and what people want there?
Well, since being in Denver, I can say everybody loves mushroom gummies and mushroom chocolates. They're almost at every party I go to. Or people take 500 milligram capsules. They just, it's part of the natural environment out here, and I find it really interesting compared to California, where we're still heavy on THC and THC products, though it is moving more towards mushrooms. And I think really, platforms like Moms on Mushrooms or even CNN, Anderson Cooper, just all of this dialogue that's coming is, people are more accepting of mushrooms than they are of cannabis, because when cannabis was being legalized in California with Prop 215, it was, oh, what's happening? Everyone's going to be a pothead and we're going to have pot on every corner of the street, even though it already was on every corner of the street. But with mushrooms, it's more healing. It's more the movement of people taking the medicine to fix and repair, not just put a band-aid over it. And I think that here in Denver, people are educating themselves. We have the Psychedelic Club of Denver, the Psychedelic Club of Durango. There are clinical facilitators here. A lot of facilitators have moved from Oregon to be here in Denver with the licensing. There's just, it's very open out here, the discussion over mushrooms. And it's true that, at parties, everybody wants a gummy or a little piece of chocolate. And I just find that it's fun. People are healthy in Denver. Not that they're not healthy in California or France, but I feel the mushrooms encourage you to want to go hike. The mushrooms encourage you want to go touch grass at Sloan's Lake. Like, go to the river, go sit with nature. It's very nature orientated here. People love their mountains.
Very nice. What excites you most about, opening your cafe and having the industry evolve out there?
What I find the most exciting about opening the cafe and the healing center is really just giving a safe space for people to come in and know that they are in a space that has been curated to make you feel comfortable, no matter where you're from, no matter your walk of life, no matter if you have disabilities, if you're, wherever you come from. I want people to feel that they're safe. And I feel that we've created that within our coffee shop and healing center. And we have so many inspiring individuals working with us, that I think everyone from every community will feel welcome at Vivid Minds Cafe.
Where can people follow you? How can they come to the cafe or schedule, an appointment there? And yeah, where can people
Yeah.
get in touch?
Um, So our website is vividmindswellness.com for the healing center. You can fill out a intake form where we will follow up with you and try and accommodate your journey request. For the coffee shop, we are open every day except Monday, from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And all of our classes are listed on the vividmindscafe.com website. And we will be offering in September also a grow your own mushroom class, where we will be using oyster mushrooms, not psilocybin, but you just apply it to your medicine and it works. But we have a really reputable grower, Arbin, joining our team, and it's going to be super educational and super interesting. So I think we're just going to create like a community gathering space, where everyone who comes in is interested by the medicine or just interested in feeling better.
Manon, thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So appreciative of you as always, and I hope we see each other soon.